So I'm about to teach you guys something absolutely mind-boggling about combat movement in Warhammer 40,000 and how it just absolutely wins games. And before you get, oh, this is just another melee-like video, no, guys, this applies to every single army in the game. If you are playing Tau and you have zero melee combat, you need to understand how this works, because when you do, holy crap, is it going to open up just crazy opportunities and avenues to you. So I was doing a coaching match this weekend when a interesting scenario popped up, and I really felt like I just needed to share it with everyone, because this is something I do personally all the time in my games, and I very rarely see other people pull it off, and I very often see people do things similar to it, but it's just completely wrong, which means that it's kind of illegal if they do it. So I'm going to share some seriously critical pile-in movement stuff, which will make you easily avoid and get around super powerful abilities such as fights first and fight undeath. And I'm going to teach you all of that today. Guys, the reality is that fight phase hacks win games, and it requires a intimate understanding of combat movement, which most people simply do not have. The lessons I need to impart on you today is positioning is more important than raw strength, because your damage is completely irrelevant when it goes into the wrong targets. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on TTS. I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how to do some of these movements, and I'm going to show you how to pull off some of these really, really awesome shenanigans. Before I do that, I'm going to do one quick slide, and I'm going to give a refresher on your pile-in and your consolidation rules, because even if you're an experienced player, I find very often people just get these rules wrong. They are confused by them, but I'm going to make sure that you're never confused again. I'm going to teach it to you in plain black and white with maybe a little orange on it, and you're going to have it. And then I'm going to hop straight to the TTS screen, and I'm going to show you how to do this pretty incredible stuff. So here's your quick pile-in and consolidation refresh. All right. Units can only pile in if they have charged or are in engagement range when they are selected to fight. Let me repeat that again. Units can only pile in if they charged or are in engagement range when they are selected to fight. So if you have not charged this turn, meaning it's not your turn and you didn't charge, or you didn't perform a heroic intervention, you're not eligible to fight unless you are in engagement range when it's your turn, okay? And remember, the fight phase goes like this. Step 1 is pile in. Step 2, make melee attacks, where you select weapons, you select targets, and you actually make the attacks. And then step 3 is going to be the consolidation. All right. What the pile-in move is a 3-inch movement towards the closest enemy model, and you must base if it is possible. And I'm going to show you this exactly on TTS when I start demonstrating some more advanced tactics in this video. Then the consolidation move is after the attacks, but you have to be able to end in engagement range of an enemy unit. All right, there is a caveat to that, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. The consolidation move is a 3-inch move towards the closest enemy model, and you must get base to base if possible. Now, all of these movements, pile-ins and consolidates, are done on an individual model by model basis. So you don't actually have to pile in with each model, and you don't have to consolidate with each model. But you still must achieve the goals of the pile-in and consolidation, which is you must end in engagement range with the enemy units, and you must end base to base if you possibly can, if you choose to move at all. All right, so that means that if you have a unit that can end in engagement range of an enemy unit, and you choose to consolidate, you can't choose to not consolidate the one model that can end in engagement range, because the first fulfillment is that you still have to end in engagement range of the enemy unit. And I'm going to clarify all of that on the next screen in just a second, okay? So if you can end in engagement range of an enemy unit, you may move toward, if you cannot, I need to fix this writing real quick, not to confuse people. If you cannot end in engagement range of an enemy unit with your consolidation move, you may move towards an objective if you can end within engagement range of said objective. And the last part of all of this is that whenever you're doing your combat movement, coherency must be maintained. If at any point in time you can't maintain unit coherency, then you cannot do combat movement. It is very, very, very clear. Okay. So I'm going to demonstrate that all on TTS. And the other things I'm going to be demonstrating is this is what we're going to do in today's video. We are going to use pile-ins and our consolidation rules to ruin fights first and fight on death effects, which are some of the strongest combat effects in the entire game. And then we're going to utilize the eligibility to pile in, the distance for the pile-in and the distance for consolidations. And I'm going to demonstrate how all that works right now. Let's go to the TTS screen, and I'm going to show you guys some bonkers stuff, which is going to change the way that you play the game. Okay, so here we are, guys. We are at the, I got a lot of scenarios set up for you here, but I want to start with the most simple one. The most simple one is just the basic pile and consolidate, and then I'm going to get into the huge tricks. So right here, I've got a bunch of jackals that happen to charge some Gretchen on an objective. All right, this guy right here, this Dishonored, is currently base to base, meaning he can't pile in because he's already base to base. None of the other jackals made it base to base on the charge because they just didn't have enough distance for the charge. But they're going to use their pile-ins to get within base to base contact. Now, if we look at this jackal pack leader, he is currently 1.5 inches away from this particular Gretchen model, and he's 2.0 from this Gretchen model, and he's 2.9 from this Gretchen model. He can now move up to 3 inches. He has to end the movement closer to the closest enemy model. So no matter what, at the end of this movement, he has to be closer than 1.5 inches to this here Gretchen. And then he's going to have to make sure that he is also base to base with one of the enemy models. So I can end up here. I can also actually end up here, as long as I ended closer. So now I'm at 1.1, that is closer than 1.5, and I also ended base to base with an enemy model. So I have fulfilled all requirements for this pile-in maneuver, okay? All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pile in the rest of these guys, because that's just the way this cookie crumbles. Just make sure 2.2, so he has to end closer to 2.2, and he totally does, blah, 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 blah. This guy, only if he can reach here, and he can reach there. So actually, just because of what I'm going to do later, I'm not going to pile this jackal in. I will pile this jackal in, though. Okay. And the reason why I'm not going to pile this jackal in, I'll demonstrate later. All right, so that's how the pile-in will actually work. You just got to end closer to the closest enemy model. That doesn't mean you have to be base to base with the closest enemy model, actually, because as we showed here, this guy actually ends base to base with a different model, but he's still closer to the closest enemy model because he was 1.5 up here, and now he's like 0.9. So this totally works. All right, that's pile-in. Now, what I want to show you is I want to show you how we're going to be countering the fight on deaths and the fights first using our pile-in and consolidation abilities. So what I've done is I've set up a fairly complicated scenario here. All right, we are currently playing a game where our World Eaters player has drawn Area Denial. All right, so let's go ahead and put up the Area Denial bubble. Now, the way Area Denial works is that if you're within 3 inches and your opponent is not within 3 inches, you score 2 points. If you're within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield and your opponent is not within 6 inches, then you are going to score 5 victory points. And so for the purpose of this video, we're going to say that the World Eaters player is trying to score 2 victory points right now because he doesn't see a way to actually kill these flash kits. But he needs to make sure that the flash kits cannot get within 3 inches, and he's going to have to kill the Gretchen. Okay, so he also has another unit of jackals right here, and he's got a unit of 8-bound that want to kill these Breaker Boys. One of the problems is that the Orc player has a 2 CP stratagem to fight on death. So when these 8-bound kill these Breaker Boys, well, they're going to spend 2 CP and also kill the 8-bound. If he chooses to start in another position on the board, then the Breaker Boys will just interrupt and kill the 8-bound. So we need to figure out how do we get around this fight on death ability, which can ruin the combat army's prospects. Because I want to, if I'm the World Eater player, I want to use my 8-bound to destroy these Breaker Boys without allowing these Breaker Boys to destroy these 8-bound. Well, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to force our opponent to be screwed on the pile-in rule. So first things first, I do actually have to charge these flash kits, because if I don't charge these flash kits, the flash kits will be able to heroically intervene into the jackals in the center, which will screw up the World Eater's plan to score Area Denial. So the very first charge we make is the jackals into the flash kits. Now in this particular scenario, and this is what happened in the coaching match, and if you want access to these types of in-depth explanations, you can definitely book coaching matches at my coffee, which is in the link in the description down below. So we charged the jackals into the flash kits right here. We wanted to stop these flash kits from heroically intervening into the center. All right, so now that job is done. And the charge they made, only one could get base to base, so the others are just sitting here into pile in. Now the next thing we did is we used our charge movement. We know we can't end in engagement range of the Breaker Boys, but we still ended very close to some of the Breaker Boys, because that's going to come in very, very important here. We then charged our 8-bound into the Breaker Boys, and then lastly we charged our jackals into the Gretchen, now that we're no longer concerned about a flash kit heroic intervention. Now, we're going to activate the 8-bound first. The 8-bound are going to kill all of the Breaker Boys, but the problem here is that the Breaker Boys have a 2 CP fight on death stratagem, meaning they would then kill the 8-bound. But because we are smart and we use our pile-in and consolidation rules on the game, for the game, we actually put our jackals in such a position that these 4 of the Breaker Boys are going to have to pile in to fight the Jackals when they fight Undeath instead of fighting the 8-bound. So this model right here is 1.1 away from this Jackal, and he's 1.3 away from this 8-bound. Meaning when he piles in, he has to end base to base with this Jackal. Which means he has to fight the Jackals. He cannot choose to fight the 8-bound. He can't get here. He can't get base to base with this Breaker Boy to fight into the 8-bound, because when he piles in, he must end closer to closest enemy model and in base to base contact if possible. So he has to get base to base. And once he's base to base, he's no longer within engagement range of the 8-bound because he's not base to base with a model that is base to base. Likewise, this guy has to come here. This guy has to come here. He doesn't have a choice because he is currently 2.0 from there and he's 2.1 from the 8-bound. So he has to end base to base up here. This guy has to go here. It's also important to note that these guys don't pile in simultaneously. They would pile in technically one at a time, but that's neither here or there. Okay, so now only 2 would get to fight the 8-bound, and they can't kill the 8-bound. So we basically make it not worth the Orc player's CP to do this, because it'll screw up yet another thing. If the Orc player does spend 2 CP to fight Undeath, let's say he piles into the Jackals like this, and he kills, I don't know, 6 Jackals, something like that. Right? Let's say he kills 6. So these guys are gone. Boom. I've killed 6 Jackals. Guess what can't happen now? The Flashkits can no longer pile in because they didn't charge this turn and they're not in engagement range of an enemy unit. So now the Flashkits can't pile in and they can't consolidate because they can never even activate the fight phase simply because they didn't charge and they're not within engagement range when they were selected to fight. So now we've ruined the Flashkits' ability to ever get within 3 inches here. How cool is that? How cool is that? So by doing this, we really screw our opponent. If the Orc player actually spends 2 CP to fight Undeath, he really screws himself over. Which means he's not going to spend 2 CP to fight Undeath, and basically you get to pick up the Breaker Boys for free. Because what the Orc player really needs to do is he needs to pile into these Jackals to kill the Jackals so that he can then consolidate into the center. So what he really needs to do is this. And this guy won't be able to pile in, right? And the problem is with this Flashkit, he's going to have to end base to here, which makes it really challenging for him to ever get within 3. So if this Flashkit actually does the pile-in, then on the consolidation, he can't end within 3 to stop us from scoring Area Denial. Because, by the way, we're assuming that all these Gretchen are going to die. So now what the Orc player really needs to do is to make sure that he ends up here so that the... I forgot where I was. So we'll just say I was here. He really needs to make sure that he ends within 3 inches of the center to stop the World Eater player from scoring Area Denial for 2 points. Which means this Flashkit can't pile in, and he actually started like right there. He can't pile in to fight, because if he does pile in, then he doesn't have enough distance on the consolidate to ever get back. So basically what you're doing is, all right, the Flashkits are only going to get to hit with 3 guys. This guy won't get to hit because when he moves his full 3 inches, he won't get to move. So if the Orc player doesn't fight Undeath, he won't kill the 8-bound, and then he'll only get 3 Flashkits to try to kill all the Jackals. And of course, in this situation, this Jackal would be the last one that you would kill to force all consolidates to be right here, which really screws the Orc player. So by putting my Jackals in such a position that I ruin my opponent's ability to pile in correctly, I have nullified, effectively, one of his greatest abilities, which is the Fight on Death. Because if he does use the Fight on Death, these Jackals never even get the opportunity, or I'm sorry, the Flashkits never get the opportunity to ever even try to pile in and kill these guys and then consolidate within 3 inches. See? Very, very strong. I've got one more example that I want to show you where I'm going to avoid a fights first by using pile-in and consolidate shenanigans. So I'm going to charge my knobs into these Corn Berserkers, which are currently being led by a World Eater's Master of Executions. Now, in this scenario, let's pretend that the Gretchen had to advance because in order to get in position, and I didn't even charge. So I don't even have to charge the Gretchen into the World Eater's Master of Executions. I'm just going to charge my knobs, and maybe I'd make like a 5-inch charge, a 4-inch charge, 5-inch charge, call it a 5-inch charge here. All right. So I'm going to go base to base with everyone that I can. All right, just like that. And then the knob here. Now, in this particular scenario, how many Corn Berserkers even though they have the fights first ability, how many of them are going to get to fight the knobs? 1, 2, 3. This guy is not going to be within engagement range of the knobs, and he's 1.2 away from the war boss and 1.5 away from the knobs, but he's 1.1 away from the Gretchen. So even though this squad is fighting first, this guy has to fight the Gretchen. He does not have a choice unless he gets to move up here. And all right, so this guy will get to fight the war boss. So you'll get 4 Khorne Berserkers into the war boss, but the most important one right here is, which is the Master of Executions. He will never fight the knobs. He'll go here, and this Khorne Berserker will also have to go here, assuming right there. So the Master of Executions, which is the guy with a flat 2 or flat 3 damage depending on the enhancement, which is the thing I really don't want fighting my knobs, has to kill Gretchen, which I don't care about. And then these guys will fight the knobs, and maybe they kill too, allowing the knobs to basically wipe the entire fight's first squad without the scary World of Eaters Master Executions to kill the knob squad. So you see how all of that works? Because I get to abuse the pile-in and consolidation. It's not even abuse, it's just literally the good strategy. It's the way the game works. I get to use the ability to ruin my opponent's fights first ability, because the model that I'm really scared of, which is the World Eater Master of Executions, has pile-ins with the closest enemy model. So there you guys have it. When you can utilize these pile-ins and these consolidates, you will get masterful results on the tabletop. If you're a Tau player, you need to understand that, hey man, maybe I've got a Riptide right here, and I've got a Devilfish right here. I can actually charge my Riptide into the Khorne Berserkers, forcing the World of Eaters of Master of Executions to go kill the Devilfish and not hit my Riptide or my Crisis Suit or whatever, and then not worry when the Khorne Berserkers coming in with their AP1 or something like that, because I know the Khorne Berserkers can't kill me. This will then tie this squad up for my opponent's next turn. Let's say I was out of shooting, right? This will tie my opponent up for the next turn, so then this squad is more or less useless in my opponent's turn. So there's lots of utility for utilizing these pile-ins and consolidates. Guys, this was a masterclass on freaking pile-ins and consolidations and combat movement in general. I hope you liked it. If you like this content, make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you want individualized coaching where you can get this type of amazing power just taught directly towards you in the scenarios that you need in, make sure you book in for some coaching or a coaching match where we'll do a private 4-hour session where we'll go through all permutations, and we'll definitely get you as prepared as possible. And with that, I'm going to take off for today. I hope you have an amazing freaking day, and crump well, crump intelligently. Remember, it's brutal and kind. All right, with that, I'm out, and have a great day. Crump on. Bye-bye.